Mic check 1 2. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Desktop Discussions. Today I'm simply talking about the fact that it's never too late to try. I was a little bit torn. Did I want to talk about the fact that it's never too late to try, or did I want to address the quote unquote hero factor? And when I say hero factor, I'm talking about the fact that we've got all these cinematic cartoons like Marvel and DC that they're bringing back characters that used to be comic books and they're making them live, and those are some of the things that I grew up on. And when I was a kid I looked at them, and things that I grew up on, and when I was a kid I looked at them and I was really excited about them because you get Superman and you get this man and that man, all these different characters with all these superpowers, and it kind of makes you want and wish that you could just do exactly what they could do if you had superpowers. But we're human beings and we don't have those same type of human or superhuman powers. And the truth of the matter is, no matter how you cut it, it's still never too late to try. And I think a lot of times when we get older, we kind of forget about the fact that there's a child living inside of us. We're the same kid, we're just in a grown-up body. And if you want to be honest with yourself, if you have the ambition, if you have the motivation, you can do it. But the thing is, when I was small, I looked at heroes like the cartoon characters that I just mentioned, and that kind of, fueled my imagination, made me, think about all these crazy things, and I would start drawing pictures, and that's how I spent a lot of time watching TV, looking at cartoons and comic books. So you fast forward and you realize, wow, I'm a grown adult. I have children of my own, and I wanted to do something special, but now I'm older. Can I still do it? And when I looked at the evolution of getting older, as you think about the fact that it's never too late to try, I remember when Muhammad Ali was at his peak, and you had the martial arts at its peak with Bruce Lee, and you had Arthur Ashe. You would see images that reminded you of yourself, and it took you away from the comic books, and it took you right in front of people that were actually doing things. But still, were you able to do those things? Of course you were. But there may not have been someone there to encourage you. There may not have been someone there to teach you. Maybe they simply didn't have the resources. And we're all made differently. So we all don't have the umption to know what ambition is. We don't have the umption to know about trying or using materials that are lesser and not as good as these tennis rackets that Arthur Ashe used, or whatever the resources were. So we kind of like took it lightly. We didn't really pursue it in many instances. And we would continue to see other people flourish, rise to stardom, rise and make a lot of money doing these different things while we stood on the sidelines just watching. And I get it. We stand on the sidelines watching because we don't realize that we are still capable or that we are able. We may not have the actual resources, but I believe it has been proven many times over and over again that if you want something bad enough, you will get it. You will do it. And as the saying goes, if your why is strong enough, the how really doesn't matter. But I remember those days, growing up from a kid to a teenager, and I'm looking at sports figures and, all these different people that are doing things that were considered phenomenal, and being in awe, not realizing that there could be something phenomenal in me as well. And I never did it. I never did it. Like, for instance, doing this video, I may have said this many times, but I'll say it again. This is not really my sweet spot. My sweet spot is really being in front of people, speaking to people in real time, sharing that message literally eyeball to eyeball versus eyeball to camera. So, you get older and you grow wiser. As Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. Now, I'm no expert with this stuff, but I'm still growing. I'm still willing to try. So it's never too late. to try. But not just with technology. I'm talking about deep seated desires in your heart. What did you always want to do? What did you always want to be when you were younger? Do you remember? Have you done it? Did you ever try it at least once, possibly twice, just in case the first time didn't go off well? Well, I had, and I'll be honest with you, I really thought that those earlier um, ideas of, looking at the cartoon characters and all these other people were, my gateway to considering what I was going to do. But it was really a gateway tapping into my imagination. And there's nothing wrong with that because your imagination can fuel your ambition. But I didn't know that. When I was maybe a little bit older, I started having different experiences, life experiences, and realizing when you're living on life's terms, now you're literally in the training mode. You're literally in the part of life that is going to make you or break you. And you have to make good decisions. Yet, I made a lot of bad decisions. It wasn't until about maybe 20 or some odd years ago that I really stood solid on my feet and decided what it was that I was going to do. Actually choosing what I wanted to try and what I wanted to pursue to really become the man that I am. What did I really want to be known for? How do I want people to see me? How do I want to show up? And the only way to do that is you've got to make a decision and you got to stick to your guns. And I started that about 20 some odd years ago when I was introduced to Toastmasters and multi-level marketing. And I started learning about personal and professional development. And the truth of the matter is I kind of fell in love with it. I really loved reading when I was younger. And then I strayed away from it. But 20 years ago, once again, when I started reading my first personal development book, I think it was David Schwartz and, The Magic of Thinking Big, all these types of books. And I really started understanding what it is that makes people the way we are. And it's a lot of different things, but it's just intriguing. And, you have to have a day one, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. You have to have a day one. But many of us really, we're too comfortable. I'll just put it like that. We're too comfortable to, expose ourselves. The fact that we don't know certain things. We're too set in our ways that we don't want to shake up the apple cart. We don't want to get outside of our comfort zones and say, hey, this is me. This is what I'm interested in. Teach me, show me. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. If you have a true desire, you should lend yourself to that new thing that you really don't know about, or the thing that's been in the back of your mind that you've seen for a number of years, but you've never done anything with it. And that's where I was 20 years ago. Then I started meeting real heroes. Not to say that Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee, they were innovators, and Arthur Ashe, they all did the things that they did, as well as many others, of color and not of color. However, personal to me, heroes personal to me. A lot of people will say, oh, my dad was my hero, and that's great. But for me, being a reserved man or a reserved boy at the time, being afraid to raise my voice, always sitting in the mode of observing, I only started to really step out of my shell about 20 years ago, like I said, when I went to my first Toastmasters meeting. And then when I started getting involved with things like multi-level marketing, and I started reading about personal development, which led to professional development. And all of these were first for me, but they really opened my mind. So I just want to encourage you, open your mind, allow yourself to be a sponge, allow yourself to be a little vulnerable, not completely, but a little vulnerable, especially when and especially if it's something that you've always been interested in. I don't care if it's writing a book, going to another country, whittling with wood, creating your own, whatever you want to call it, creating a widget, right? Lend yourself to that thing. Never live a life that, you've never tried it in. It's been this secret between you and your brain your entire life. Get out of your own way. Everything doesn't have to be for money, but if it is for money, great, go for that as well. Learn what you need to learn. Do what you need to do, and then become better for it. You see, because when I met and heard Les Brown for the very first time, the light went on in my mind, but I wasn't sure exactly how to go about it. So when I left and went home that day, I did nothing. The next time I heard him, I knew that was confirmation or reconfirmation that I needed to take action. See, I was about 40, maybe 30. Yeah, I had to be about 40. And it was just the first time that I just decided, let me do something for Charles on Charles's terms, because Charles has decided to do it, because Charles has an interest, and Charles is responsible for what he does with his life. And I did. And that was the beginning. And then I met Dr. Jolly. And then I've gone to conferences and I work with people like Simon Bailey and Delo Toro and so many others. So many names, honestly. At this point, I cannot remember all of the names, but all those experiences, those conferences, those coaching sessions, those masterminds, all of those things led me to a place that I am now. And guess what? There is still room to grow. So I have to do the thing that I claim that I've always wanted to do. And now, after this amount of time and all the experiences I've had, why would I stop? So, why should you stop? Post your comments, post your questions, whatever it is that you may feel that you're interested in doing. I highly recommend do that. We've been talking about the fact that it's never too late to try, and I truly believe that it's never too late to try. I really wanted you to get as much out of this training as you possibly can. Sometimes it's really about sitting back and giving yourself reason for pause. Sometimes it's about taking a few notes. And as I say to people nowadays, don't try to write down everything. Only write down or take note of what resonates with you so that you can become the best version of you. And that way, you're not overwhelmed. You don't feel distraught. You don't feel like you don't want to be involved. You don't get turned off easily. Just do what comes naturally to you. Write what directly relates to your level of interest. And then, and only then, will you be able to find out what you're made of. You see, many of us don't do it, but it's important. It's really important to give yourself that opportunity to be the best version of you by walking out on a limb, or as Bob Crisp will say, sometimes you have to walk the high wire without the net, and that's how you get your results. Because even if you fail, you got to fail in order to prevail. With that being said, I want to say thank you for your time. I'm going to get ready to sign off, but I'm trying to find, here we go. Here's the right way to sign off. Remember, always radiate the brain and change the game. If you got any comments or questions, please feel free to post them.